Aloha. So, um, yeah, seems I got a response to my mansplaining video or talk with more mansplaining. Um, yeah, the breadcrumbing, when obviously it didn't even look up the definition of breadcrumbing. Yes, it's something you give away. You know, rich men tend to have a lot they can easily give away, and they usually use it to buy things. In this case, it was entertainment, something to do for the winter time, which there's a word for that one too. Gosh, I've been out of the dating world for a while. Yeah, pretty much like decided I wasn't gonna have any more relationships with men before this one, and I have to say it's kind of convinced me of that again. It'll be a minute. I definitely want to get back to my own center before I involve anybody else, or consider a relationship, especially a sexual one. Anyway, look up the definitions, perhaps, would be a good place to start. If you want to mansplain, you might want to know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's typical of mansplaining, that you don't really know what you're talking about, but you think on it and pontificate about it and tell a woman who's actually studied it, experienced it, what it is. And no, I didn't breadcrumb you, because breadcrumbs is that you're leading someone on. And I mean, I'm still who I was before I came there. I do love bombs. Relationship is my yoga. I'm, devoted to spirit. I've been in service. All of these things, and like that really hasn't changed. I was also a grieving mother, a grieving daughter, a trauma survivor, and these people knew all this. The most recent ones. So now I have also been thinking on the similarities between this ex-partner of mine and my dad. And they go deeper into their childhood. And, this is a thing. Like, I'm not mad at him. I don't appreciate it. I definitely am not going to tolerate the gaslighting and the, I'm going to, pretend it's not there for the sake of their egos. But ultimately, they're wounded children. Both of them had fathers that were wounded in World War II, or by World War II, impacted by World War II. Funny enough, on opposite sides of that war. And in my dad's case, he was already wounded as a child, especially in the father wound area, because his father died when he was just a baby, his real dad. And from everything I've learned about my real grandfather, probably would have been a lot different had he not died. And my father had had that influence rather than the other influence. Because the other influence, my dad's stepdad, who later adopted him, but not until he was in his 40s, went to World War II. My ex-partner's dad was in the German army. My adopted grandfather was in the American army. So they were on opposite sides. But we know that war impacts people. My adopted grandfather didn't talk about it much. And from what I understand, you know, a lot was excused in my partner's family, that his dad was wounded in the war. Those things impact parenting, and that impact especially goes towards the sons when it's a father, I believe. And so it's not Adam and Eve's fault that they're not warm, tender, gentle, loving men, perhaps, if we're looking for fault. I'd rather accountability, and there's multiple factors involved in what impact is had more than blame, but we definitely can't leave out the systematic things and take it a bit off the individual and guilt, shame, and all of that. It just isn't is. They were impacted, and and they come from generations that didn't have the time for self-reflection, and definitely both of these cultures don't value that. So they demonize it and just continue passing it on and deny. And that's what, I mean, I know my dad would rather me deny that he did anything that was harmful or not in integrity or out of sorts. Keep the family secrets. Don't let it out. And there's a lot of blowback towards me for not doing that. And there would be blowback for them if they didn't accept, like, damn, their dads and moms are dead. Even safer to be able to step up and say, hey, they weren't perfect people. And that's not exactly their fault. It was systematic. It was due to the environment they grew up in. It's just been passed down. But like at some point, we can step up and say, no more. The buck stops with me. And I'm not going to deny this anymore. Because only with awareness can anything begin to shift. And I do hope both of them perhaps get some awareness and decide to do some shifting. But, you know, the likelihood is, like, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? So it's said. And these are some top dogs in the patriarchal world, and the likelihood that they're going to voluntarily give up their privilege and identity at this point when they're in their 70s is highly unlikely. And it's like, you know, the young people call them dinosaurs. And they're dying out. They are. They're not going to live forever. They're reaching the end of their lives. And once they go, then perhaps, you know, their influence to go with them. And we can begin, without that heavy opposition, begin having some progress towards not having that rule the world. You know, this 2-year-old empire mind, narcissistic attitude of only for your own benefit and everybody else is just tools in that. You know, these young people, there's a lot to be said for that they're desperate now for something different. And they're at least doing some explorations into that. And, you know, I'm a bridge generation between that. And I'm gonna, like, jump on the train because those 70-year-olds have created this. And it ain't working for anybody but like these last few hanger-ons that still have their property, their identity, their, oh, I'm the man. Only the best for me. Yeah. Those guys. Those guys and the women that have propped them up, supported them, boosted their egos, not called them on their shit, all of that. That would do well to be composted, thrown into the compost pit. The way I see it. If we're looking to grow something new, we take out the El Diablos and use them as compost. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts today, as I've been doing one of my little pieces again, and taking a bit of time for myself before I either become a farm supporter or have to leave. And I guess I'll find that out hopefully today. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go take a nap again. Every day. Pick. Yeah. With no intention. It's more breadcrumbing. I guess, you know, like, it's more play, toying. Because it doesn't really affect him. It affects me. Yeah. Still does. I'm not gonna say I'm immune to all this yet. I'm still healing from it. Wrapping my head around it, my body around it, my somatic experience around it, my heart around it, that, like, all of that was a total and complete lie. And not anything genuine, real, empathetic, compassionate, caring, concerned. It wasn't. It was a game. It wasn't to me. Yeah. Blame the victim, though, huh? It's all right. I'll take accountability for what was my part. And I did have a part in that. And I'm going to work on that part. Not work on trying to make myself fit into that delusion. It was a delusion. Limerence, delusion, there was all kinds of things that played a part in that. Blame, I'd say it's the system. It's patriarchy. This allows it to occur. And, yeah. So, even I ain't saying, you to blame, be ashamed. I'm saying unshame that shit. Start dealing with some of what happened in your childhood. Own, take accountability, responsibility, and stop using people like toys for your entertainment just because you got enough money to impress them a little bit. Because that little bits, those little breadcrumbs that you give away when they don't really matter to you, it doesn't matter to you. Those aren't gifts of the heart. They're gifts of convenience and to be able to have you feel good much more than about the other person. Because if those things that you gave meant anything, I'd still be enjoying them with you.